Cheap books are my weakness, y'all, and recently there was a library book sale, a sale at Barnes & Noble, and a book festival that was held locally, so I got way too many books and wanted to do a haul to show some of the books that I was able to get recently for a really good price. As I said, it's a weakness, so let's get into it. First I'll talk about the sale at Barnes & Noble, since that happened a little while ago. They had a sale where you could get a bunch of really great books for half off. They had a set of tables that were 50% off, and they had quite a few that were recent releases or pretty popular books. So I managed to get a good number of, well, I say a good number. So I managed to get a few books that I was really excited about for half off. One was Pride by E.B. Savoy. This is a Pride and Prejudice retelling set in Brooklyn and following some, I believe, some Afro-Latina characters, so I'm really excited to get into this. I also managed to find The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, and this, I believe, is set in a period mansion or house or something, and a murder happens, and the day this main character relives that day of the murder, and every day they relive it at 11 p.m. Evelyn Hardcastle will get murdered, and they keep reliving this day, but they keep waking up in the body of 8 different people who were around the scene of this murder in this period house or whatever the setting is. They keep waking up in 8 different bodies of people who were around, and so they need to figure out, by embodying these different people, they need to figure out who the murderer is. And yeah, I've heard amazing things about this, and I needed more mysteries to read. I don't read a lot of them, and it usually takes some unique element for me to want to pick up a mystery, but this one sounded really intriguing to me, so I picked this one up. I also managed to find a copy of Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Young, and this has been all over BookTube recently. You've probably heard what it's about or probably read it, but this follows a world where there are several different cast of people. There's kind of demon-like creatures that are the top class, like I think animal-like creatures. There are humans are the lowest class, and then there's kind of a mix cast that's in the middle, and every year or something, the basically emperor or ruler of this land picks 8 of the lowest women from the lowest class to basically take as his concubines for the year, and our main character is chosen as one of these women, and so it's about her experience, and I believe there's a female-female romance, and I've just heard incredible things and would love to give it a try. So there's also the spring sale at my library, and it was a madhouse. The first day was for subscribers to the library, and it was a madhouse, but I managed to get some really great stuff. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that I managed to get at this book sale. A few of them are actually on my TBR from May. I'll be sure to link that in the description below. I'm doing the Al Readathon this month. Yes, a little bit late, but I'm doing it. And so some of the books that I found at the library are ones that I'm reading this month for the for the Al Readathon. So because they're in this readathon, I'm not going to spend too much time describing them because I talked about them in my May TBR, but one is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I also got The Light Between Worlds by Laura Wade, and this one follows 2 sisters who kind of are in this magical world and then are brought back to, I think it's London in the past, and one of the sisters wants to go back to this magical world, one really doesn't, and when one of the sisters disappears, the other has to figure out what happened to her, and I'm guessing goes back to this magical world and tries to figure out what's going on. Anyway, seems pretty cool. I also managed to find a copy of A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir, and this is the second book in the Ember and the Ashes series. I read the first one a couple months ago, so I'm excited to continue on with that series. So I also managed to find a couple of Leigh Bardugo books. I would love to read the original Grisha trilogy as well as the Six of Crows duology, and I found Shadow and Bone, which is the first book in the trilogy, the original trilogy. So I'll eventually collect these. I think I'm just going to keep looking for these at used bookstores and at different book festivals and places where I can get cheap books and just kind of collect them over time, and eventually I'll have them, or at least hopefully can find most of them, and then when I'm ready to read them and when I'm ready to dive into this world, just kind of binge them. So that's the plan. So I found the first one. I also actually managed to find a copy of Six of Crows in the gorgeous hardback with these sprayed edges. So really excited about this. I know this one follows a cast of characters as they are on a heist, and that's really all I know, but I've heard amazing things. So I also found a copy of Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. I believe this is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, I'm pretty sure. Heard incredible things, saw a copy, just grabbed it instantly. Also, I've also been wanting to get more into Brandon Sanderson, and I have never read any of his books, but they sound incredible. I would love to read the Mistborn trilogy, both of them, basically just the entire world that he's created around this series. But I did find the first book in the Stormlight Archive, and that is The Way of Kings, and so just grabbed this, and this is going to be another author that I think I'll find as many of his books as I can at library book sales, used bookstores, and just see how many I can collect of his different series and then kind of fill in. I'm in the middle of a bunch of different series right now, and so I don't want to start new ones. So I think I'm just going to collect as many as I can inexpensively before I start to turn to the series, and then actually just fill in the ones that I haven't been able to find. So I wanted to make sure I grabbed it while I had the chance. And this is another one that I talked about in my May TBR. This is A Conspiracy of Stars by Olivia A. Cole. And this I actually finished recently. This follows our main character, Octavia, and she lives on a world where essentially a group of scientists have crash landed, and it's about a generation later, and so they're kind of exploring this world. They have an uneasy peace with the native dominant species on this planet, and Octavia's about to start her internship in her parents' science lab, and she begins to see some weird things happening and experiencing some weird things, and so she needs to find out the truth about the future of the group of humans that are on this world and how they're going to relate to the world, and whether or not they're going to be able to maintain that peace, and whether or not they're going to be able to survive and sustain themselves. I actually really enjoyed this one. I'll talk about it more in my wrap-up later this month, but I enjoyed this one. I also found a copy of The Casual Vacancy and just couldn't resist. I've obviously mentioned Harry Potter before in pretty much every video where I talk about books, and I haven't read A Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling, and I know, as I mentioned with the mystery book earlier, I just want to at least have some mysteries on deck for when I'm in the mood for a mystery, and so I couldn't pass up The Casual Vacancy when I saw it at the book sale. And I also found a book that came out a couple of years ago and I'd heard good things about, and that is Exit West by Mohsin Hamid, and I believe it's kind of a contemporary with fantastical elements, I believe. I believe it follows two young people as they're trying to escape kind of a civil war that's going on in their country, and they travel through these magical doors. That's really all I know about it, but it sounded really intriguing. It's been talked about for the past couple of years since it's come out, and I've heard incredible things, and so yeah, I'm excited to get into this. And this was something I was really excited about. I found the entire Broken Earth Trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, and that is the 5th season, and the second one is the Obelisk Gate, and then the Stone Sky. And the only thing is there's one page that was like accidentally ripped out and then put back in, but other than that they are actually in really good condition. And every time I've heard someone describe this series on BookTube, they don't really know how to describe it succinctly, so I don't actually really know too much about this series, but I've just heard that it's an incredible fantasy series where the Earth is kind of a main character or a huge plot device, and how these people relate to the Earth is a huge part of the story. I heard it just touches on a lot of different things and is really well written and just sounds right up my alley from the descriptions I've been able to get from people who have read it. And when I saw the entire trilogy there, I decided to... I don't usually buy trilogies all at once unless I can find them pretty cheaply and I'm not kind of investing too much money in it at one time. But I found the entire thing at the book sale, so wanted to go ahead and pick that up. I also saw Renegades, and this is one that is by Marissa Meyer, and this one I've heard mixed things about. I've heard Renegades is pretty good, but I've heard some mixed things, in particular about Arch Enemies, which is the second book in this series. So I wanted to give it a try, see what I thought. I'm kind of in a sci-fi mood. I got a couple of sci-fi on deck for this month, so, you know, when I'm in a sci-fi mood again, or maybe I'll be in a sci-fi mood at the end of this month as well, maybe I'll pick this up and see what I think and whether or not I like this series. So I also wanted to pick up just a couple of classic feminist texts that I saw, The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir and The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan. And these are just classic texts, and I've been wanting to collect classic feminist texts, and so whenever I can find some for pretty cheap, I always like to pick those up and put them in my collection. So those are the books that I saw at the book sale. There's also a book festival, and so I picked up a few things from that book festival. I managed to find Graceling by Kristin Cashore, and this one follows, what's her name? Katsa, and she has an ability or a grace, and that involves she's able to kill a man with her bare hands and has been since she was the age of 8, which just sounds really cool. And I've heard incredible things about this series, and when I saw it at this book festival, I got really excited because it just sounds... I don't know too much about the rest of this series or what it's about, but from the parts that I've heard from booktubers who have read this, it just sounds right up my alley. And yeah, again, this is part of a series, so it might be a little bit before I can actually get to it, but we'll definitely let you know more once I actually read this, but I was really excited to find this. So I also managed to find A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This is kind of described as Firefly if the crew on Firefly was actually like sanctioned by the government and kind of doing government projects. And this group is on a space vessel, and they are tasked with building, I believe it's wormholes, and tunneling wormholes to different parts of the universe. And I don't think this is a plot-driven book. My understanding is that it's just very much about the characters that are on this ship, and anytime you say that anything is at all close to Firefly, it's on my list. So I also found The Story of Moana, and it's a cloth hardback, which is really cool, and just has this gorgeous picture of Moana and some more designs on the back. And I just think it'll be really nice to have just a fun Disney book about a badass lady. And it also includes, throughout this, it also includes some of the tales and the stories of her people, and so it'll be fun to kind of dive more into her world and actually just be able to also read the story of Moana. So I think when I need to pick me up, this is what I'm going to turn to. So those are the books I wanted to talk about today. Have you read any of these books? What did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll talk to y'all next time.